Let's call the police. The incident happened at the wedding of my eldest son and his wife. The $3,000 we, as a couple, had gifted our eldest son for his wedding had somehow been switched out like a magic trick, replaced with just $10. It was a clear case of theft. I suggested to my son and husband that we should report this to the police. Both agreed with me. However, one person, not present, voiced their opposition. My name is Natalie, and I turned 60 this year. I've been married to my husband for 27 years. Blessed with a son and a daughter, I believe we've built a modest but happy family. My daughter is already married, leaving my eldest son's marriage as the only concern. Not to say I favor him, but my son, Kenneth, is quite the accomplished young man. Kind-hearted, tall, well-educated, and well-earning. He's a son to be proud of, and naturally, I wished for his marriage to be a cautious decision. It seems he has finally found someone to settle down with. My husband and I were anxious, waiting to see what kind of woman our eldest son would bring home. Ever since our son mentioned, "I've found someone I want to marry," we didn't make any plans on the weekends, just waiting. But there was no word of any visit for an introduction. It seems my son had already visited her family's side to greet them. Certainly, it's common sense to greet the other side first with a "please allow us to marry." Still, once done, shouldn't he promptly arrange a visit for us too? I thought about urging my son, but hesitated, not wanting to be a nuisance. A month passed without any greeting from his partner. My husband, having put aside his golf plans during the weekends, was growing increasingly irritable. We wanted to avoid any conflict before the marriage, as dealing with my husband's sour mood can be quite a task. "So, I'd like you to introduce us to the person you're seeing," I casually mentioned to my son. To which my son responded with a troubled look. "I've asked, but our schedules aren't lining up," he said. Apparently, her job keeps her busy, leaving no time for a visit. When I asked about her weekends, it seems she prefers to relax then, as weekdays are hectic. It's understandable, anyone working weekdays would want their weekends to rest. Surely, my son must feel the same deep down. He seemed to understand that this excuse wouldn't fly. Otherwise, he wouldn't look so troubled. "Look, if you're going to get married, there needs to be some formality. Please bring her home properly. If Dad gets upset, marriage will be the least of your worries," I said. My son, with a solemn look, nodded. And then, "I'll make sure to bring her for the introduction," he assured. Trusting my eldest son's words, I decided to wait a bit longer. After our talk, he contacted us the following Sunday, saying he would bring her over. When I informed my husband, he reluctantly accepted, and I felt relieved. We were both tense, waiting from the morning of that day. A little after noon, "I'm on my way now," our son messaged us. The woman who arrived was as beautiful as a model, even more stunning than any celebrity you'd see around, leaving both my husband and me astonished. She introduced herself as Amelia and mentioned she was 4 years older than our son. At 30, her manners were impeccable, leaving a good impression. I thought she seemed like the type who could lead my overly gentle son. Apparently, she's a magazine model. "I wanted to greet you sooner, but if I don't rest enough on the weekends, it affects my work the following week. I'm sorry," Amelia said, apologizing gracefully. Being a model, her body is her asset. It made sense that carrying over fatigue to the next week isn't professional. "Will you continue working after getting married?" I asked, intending it to be a light question. To this, Amelia's face turned visibly displeased. Surprised by her reaction, I was taken aback when she responded, "Is that the first thing you ask when I come to greet?" "Yes, I plan to continue working." Is there a problem? Her sudden confrontational tone caught me off guard. Maybe the topic of working post-marriage was a taboo for her. After that, no matter what my husband and I asked, Amelia had a sulky attitude. Our son, sitting beside her, desperately tried to appease her mood. To no avail. Are we done here? I have a photo shoot on Monday, so I'd like to rest. I heard from Kenneth that you were rushing us for a greeting. Can't you consider our schedule? Maybe Natalie doesn't understand because she's never worked? Amelia said, crossing her arms and looking down on me disdainfully. Honestly, I was at a loss for words. Would someone normally act this way when visiting their future spouse's home? It was beyond my comprehension. My husband's expression also turned grim. Only the concerned look from my son, worried about me, kept me from losing my temper. He must truly care for her deeply. He certainly doesn't want a conflict between his mother and future wife before the wedding. I managed to contain my anger, hoping her attitude would change after the marriage. I'm sorry for the inconvenience during your busy schedule. We were just eager to meet the woman who would become Kenneth's wife. Sorry for insisting. I apologized, maintaining my composure as an adult. Amelia responded to my apology with a scoff. Her arrogant demeanor was pervasive. This first meeting with her turned into a bitter memory I would never forget. My son's wedding preparations progressed smoothly afterward. Though smoothly means without much consultation or reporting to us. My son had always mentioned he preferred a small wedding ceremony. He had always talked about wanting a small, family-only ceremony. But in reality, my son's wishes were completely disregarded. The wedding turned out to have nearly 100 guests. This had to be Amelia's doing. While I accepted it, thinking it was fine if my son was happy, I was concerned about her forceful approach. If things continued this way, he would always be under her thumb. I felt he needed to assert himself more. When I shared my concerns with him, he responded with a troubled smile. Sorry for worrying you. But please, let me handle this. A wedding is mostly about the bride, and I want to fulfill her wishes as much as I can. His words left my husband and me with no choice but to remain silent. Considering the size of the wedding, the expenses must be substantial. After discussing with my husband, we decided to give a generous gift. To help the couple as much as we could. On the day of the wedding, the bride and groom's dressing room was overflowing with people. Friends of the bride and groom came and went, greeting them. I even spotted some models, likely colleagues of Amelia. With so many guests, the reception was hectic, a real whirlwind. Cousins and my son's friends were managing the reception desk. It seemed Amelia's co-workers were helping out on her side. We made sure to give our gift before the reception got too busy. After the wedding, what a lavish ceremony it was! Relatives commented. It had been a while since I attended such a grand wedding. The ceremony itself was truly magnificent. The incident came to light the day after the wedding. As we were finally taking a breather, our son rushed in, visibly upset. Our usually gentle son was angrier than I'd ever seen him. What are you trying to do, making me look bad? If you're against this marriage, just say it. He shouted, leaving me speechless. With a stern look, he glared at my husband and me alternately. My husband, too, was stunned. Kenneth, calm down, please. What happened? We have no idea what you're talking about, I said, trying to remain calm. Arguing back wouldn't solve anything. It was the first time my son raised his voice at us, and I was far from calm inside. My husband seemed quite shocked too. Seeing my composure, my son seemed to calm down a bit and sat on the living room sofa. It's about the wedding gift. He started. Wedding gift? What about it? Was there a problem? Knowing the wedding would be extravagant, we quickly decided to give generously. We had given $3,000. Was it not enough? I began to worry. Big problem. A $10 wedding gift. Have you ever heard of such a thing? He said, placing the envelope on the table. Indeed, the envelope had my husband's name on it. But I immediately noticed. Something was off. The handwriting wasn't my husband's. So you're saying there was only $10 in the wedding gift envelope? I pressed for confirmation. My son nodded and opened the envelope in front of us. True enough, there was only $10 inside. Last night, Amelia checked it, my son explained. She was in tears, thinking she's not accepted as a wife. Despite saying this, my son's expression showed doubt. Deep down, he knew we wouldn't do such a thing. Kenneth, do you really think we'd do this? You know this handwriting isn't Dad's, right? I responded. Hearing this, my son let out a deep sigh and slumped his shoulders. You're right, Mom. I don't understand how this could have happened either. He admitted, looking distraught. It pained me to see him like this. I reassured him that we had given $3,000, not the amount in the envelope. Why is it $10? We gave $3,000. My husband said, examining the envelope with a puzzled look. Regardless, the $3,000 was mysteriously missing. And in a way that made us look bad. Anger surged within me. This is theft. Let's report it to the police, I suggested to my son and husband. We didn't know where the switch happened, but we needed to clarify how the $3,000 was stolen. It hurt to suspect the friends and colleagues who had helped at the reception. All right. I'll also contact Amelia, my son said, pulling out his mobile phone. He seemed to be explaining that the original gift was $3,000 and this $10 was a fake. Amelia's voice, faintly heard from the receiver, sounded accusing. As if she thought I, who didn't approve of her, was behind this. It seemed she was determined to pin this on me, and the conversation dragged on. This isn't going anywhere. Like Mom said, I'm thinking of reporting this to the police, my son finally said, and I could sense Amelia falling silent. Wait. This doesn't need to involve the police. Amelia's voice became anxious. She was pleading with my son not to go to the police. Then I whispered to my son, why not ask Amelia to come over? I felt it was better to discuss this with everyone present. My son conveyed this to Amelia and ended the call. She arrived about 15 minutes later. During that time, my son reached out to friends and cousins who managed the reception. Without revealing the missing gift, he checked if any outsiders had accessed the reception area. Everyone said nothing unusual had happened. He only told the truth to his cousin, who then mentioned they had photos from the reception desk and offered to send them. The data arrived on my son's mobile phone shortly after. While we were checking each photo, Amelia arrived. Looking pale and without makeup. Calling the police isn't peaceful, Natalie. Why won't you admit what you've done? This is harassment against me, isn't it? Amelia accused me as soon as she arrived. However, I noticed her eyes darting around uneasily. Her behavior was clearly suspicious. Amelia, calm down. Why would I do such a thing? I never opposed your marriage. On what basis are you accusing me? As Amelia grew more agitated, I became calmer. My husband silently observed the unfolding events. I believe this is a case of theft. Someone switched our wedding gift with this fake. It's a terrible and calculated crime. I think the best course of action is to contact the police and have them investigate, I said, holding the counterfeit gift envelope. Amelia then reached out to snatch the envelope, but I was quick to protect it. It was crucial evidence. I couldn't risk it being damaged right in front of us. No, this needs to be submitted to the police as evidence, I insisted. Amelia's reaction convinced me, more than ever, that she was involved in this. Are you trying to harass me by blowing this out of proportion? Kenneth told me you were kind, but this is disappointing. I'm starting to feel anxious about being your DIL. Amelia said, now addressing my husband in a softer tone. When she realized she couldn't sway me, she targeted my husband. But he remained silent, understanding I wasn't capable of such malice. Our mutual trust as a couple made me feel relieved. You're all being so cruel, as if I'm the liar. But isn't it Natalie who's lying? Amelia said, tears welling up. Her tears seemed insincere. That's right, the liar is you, Amelia. My son calmly said, having been reviewing photos sent to his mobile phone. Amelia looked at his phone in shock, her face turning from pale to ghostly white. These photos are evidence, Amelia. Do you have any explanation? My son asked. Seeing this, Amelia began to tremble. My husband and I looked at the photo on the phone. It was one of the photos taken by my cousins at the reception desk. Behind my cheerful cousins flashing peace signs, there was Amelia reaching for the wedding gifts. I recalled Amelia disappearing from the dressing room in her dress for about 30 minutes, supposedly to greet friends at the reception. My son zoomed in to show Amelia's hands. In one hand, she firmly held a thick envelope, the real wedding gift. In the other, a thin envelope. This is a fake! I would never do this. It's a doctored photo. It must be Natalie's cousins did it on her instruction. Amelia continued with her strained excuses. She claimed my nephews, who managed the reception, had created a composite photo at my behest. I was astonished at her attempt to wriggle out of the situation. No wonder she was so against reporting this to the police. Who would bother to do such a thing? Please, use some common sense, I replied. I couldn't help but become exasperated listening to Amelia's far-fetched excuses. My son and husband, silent, observed the exchange between Amelia and me. Their faces screamed, were so appalled, were speechless. Why would you do this, Amelia? Do you dislike my family that much? My son asked, to which Amelia did not respond. Anyway, where is the $3,000? You have it, right, Amelia? You know it was meant to be a contribution to our wedding expenses, not something for you to keep all to yourself, right? My son probed gently, yet Amelia just hung her head and let the tears fall. I don't want to report my own wife to the police, he said. Then, as if resigning to the situation, Amelia began to confess. She had a substantial debt due to her extravagant spending habits, often purchasing the outfits she modeled. Her inability to resist her desires led to her debt. Moreover, her obsession with beauty treatments and expensive salon visits only worsened her financial situation. She had tried to clear her debt before the wedding but failed due to the large amount. Hence, she decided to switch the wedding gifts in a desperate attempt to settle her debts. What a blunder it was to open and switch the envelopes at the reception. She must have been panicking to commit such a mistake. Do you know about Amelia's debts? I asked my son, who shook his head in response. He then faced Amelia seriously. Let's get a divorce. I hate lies. Had you told me about your debt, we could have tackled it together. Didn't I ask you to value family? Yet, you disgraced my parents. I can't be married to you. It's over, he declared. My son is gentle, but he's decisive and stubborn about his principles. Amelia was stunned by his decision for divorce. No, it's a lie, right? I'll return the money. It was just a momentary lapse. The debt, I'll pay it off with the wedding gifts. It's too embarrassing to get divorced right after the wedding, she pleaded, clinging to my son, who remained stoic. Eventually, 3 days post-wedding, my son filed for divorce. Amelia returned to her parents' home. Initially,